Okay, the next chapter, chapter 17 in Rabbi Tatz's book, is very important because I think that it's going to answer the hanging question that we left off with from the last chapter. If Hashem made everybody inherently moral, and that's across the board from all different corners of the world, so then why do we see that most, I guess we'd probably call it majority of the world today, is not living by a very high level of morality? If it's normal to be moral, that's the way that God created us. Remember, we're all created b'tselem Elokim, in the image of God. So that means that the godliness that's inside every human being is only craving morality. It's craving the right thing. So then why do we live in a world where so much of that has become distorted, and there is not a strong trend of waves of nations and everybody living on a high moral standard? So the title of this chapter is Imagination and Distortion. And with this, he's going to try to explain how it is that the pure morality ends up getting lost. What? Oh. So listen what he says. How does man's innate knowledge of what is right and good become distorted? Again, this is our question. If your essence is that you know what is right and you know what is good, so then why would you ever shift? You know it, and so he says, how did it become distorted? When the will is not pure, meaning when someone's inner will is no longer pure, it distorts their vision. Instead of seeing reality as it is, the eye see it the way the will would have it. Okay, we're going to have to discuss, meaning there's morality inherently in the DNA, then there is a ratzon, there's a will that a person has to do certain things. Now, sometimes that will is going to be misguided and misdirected, and it's going to be influenced by things in one's life that are going to take it beyond the realm of the moral understanding that it has, and it's going to end up misusing or distorting the morality that is really right in front of them. So he says like this: reality gives way to a fantastic version of itself, a parody that captivates and leads to destruction. So, meaning, it's no longer really reality. What you think, Rabbi Tatz is a very deep person, but he's saying over here, reality is what we think is reality might be really a parody that captivates and leads to destruction. What you think is real might not really be real. What you think is good might not really be good. What you think is bad might actually not be bad. What you think is true might be false, and what you think is false might be true. Now, how does a person who is created and wired as a thinking, moral, upstanding human being, how does he make those mistakes? So he begins to explain with the following. He says, before man's distortion of his perception, he saw the world accurately. Now we have to go back to the beginning of time. And he says that the Rambam was asked the following perplexing question, which was a consequence of Adam, the first man, eating from the tree of knowledge of good and evil. What was the question? Before the sin, clearly Adam did not know good and evil. After the sin, he got that knowledge because he ate from the Eitz Hadas, the tree of knowledge of Tov v'Ra, of good and evil. So what did he get by eating from the tree that he wasn't supposed to eat from? He now has the knowledge of good and evil. So the Rambam was asked, so why did the sin lead to the acquisition of knowledge, a faculty previously denied him? That would appear to be a significant advantage. It's a great question. Before he ate from the tree, apparently he doesn't have knowledge of good and evil. So that seems to be a shortcoming of man. He eats from the tree and suddenly has knowledge of good and evil. That seems to be a benefit to man. So why is that called a punishment of eating from the tree of knowledge of good and evil when now you have knowledge of good and evil? You didn't have that before, clearly. That's the question. And the Rambam is in his classical work called Mor Nevuchim, which is called Guide to the Perplexed. The Rambam was living in a very philosophical generation, and there were many, many Jews that had a hard time believing in our faith and in the Torah because they were too caught up in the world of philosophy. So he wrote a philosophical Jewish book to answer their philosophical questions called Mor Nevuchim, Guide to the Perplexed. And it's a fascinating thing that he writes. I never went through. I saw little bits and pieces over here, but it's a fascinating work, a philosophical masterpiece of how he puts everything into place, all according to the way that the Torah views the world. So this is the question that was asked him. And he responds like this: there could not have been a greater fall. The fact that he ate from the Eitz Hadas Tova, and now it seems that he's rewarded with knowing the difference between good and evil, it's the worst thing that ever happened to man. Why? If you know what's good and evil, now you're better off. You know what to gravitate towards. You know what to run away from. And he says, because that was not the gaining of new knowledge, rather a loss of clarity profound beyond measure. Before he ate from the Eitz Hadas Tova, the tree of knowledge of good and evil, so all of his knowledge his clarity was tremendous. He saw everything clear in the world, as he's about to explain. Once he ate, and now good and evil is mixed up inside of him, he loses the clarity in the most profound of ways. And this is how he explains. Prior to the sin, man did not know good and evil. We didn't know what was good, we know what was evil. He only knew what was true and false. And it's a very subtle difference, but he's going to explain how it works. But there's good and there's evil, and there's emes and there's sheker, there's true and there's false. True and false is a greater clarity than the difference between good and evil, as we will see. What we now call good, he saw as true, and it was rock solid reality. Whatever was the emes, whatever was the truth, that was clear in the eyes of Adam. What we now see as evil, the things that we see in this world as evil, he saw that as sheker, as false and non-existent. What's true is real, what's false doesn't exist. If it's false, the very definition of false is it's not real. If truth means real, false means not real. So whatever is true is reality, whatever is false is not reality. And therefore I'm only going to live my life in a world of reality. I don't want to live in a world of non-reality. Right? I would rather live a life that's true and real than a life that is in the pursuit of falsehood, which is not real. So says Rabbi Tatz, again, he's going through the words of the Rambam over here. And he says, to do the good, which was emes, which was truth, made sense in the same way that simple arithmetic yields its results. There's nothing to debate. 1 + 1 = 2. No one can argue with me that 1 + 1 = 3. If he does, you're not living in the world of reality. Reality is 1 + 1 = 2. That's how it works. So in the world of truth, everything is clear exactly the way it's supposed to be. Whatever is reality is reality. To do evil then had as much appeal as an attempt to convince one that 1 + 1 = 5. You're in a math class and the teacher's writing on the board 1 + 1 = 5. You crazy? Of course it equals 2. Everybody knows that. So I would never fall for the trickery of the teacher and say, okay, fine, 1 + 1 = 5. That's not reality, that's falsehood. So before they ate from the tree of knowledge of good and evil, everything was 100% clear. There's true, there's false, it's right, it's wrong, it's good, it's evil. I see it all clear. I'm Adam. I'm the holiest man in the world. My neshama, my soul is gigantic. I'm going to gravitate only towards that which is right. You can't even convince me of something that is wrong. Man saw reality as it is, and his moral reality was as solid as logic itself. So the moral reality and the logic, which is a very strong point in the Gemara, very often you will find that when the Gemara wants to bring a proof to something, it could either bring you a verse or it could bring you what's called the svara, could bring you logic. And very often the logic could even outdo a verse in the Torah. Because Hashem made us logical, straight-thinking beings, and the more that your logic, that we'll call it seichel, is there inside of you, so the stronger you have an ability to be able to discern between what is right and wrong, and you see the truth.
There's another question.
Yes.
Do we have any idea how long Adam and Eve lived in the Garden of Eden before they
Yes.
ate
Yes.
the apple?
A few hours.
That's it.
They were created on Friday afternoon, and before Shabbos came in, they made the great mistake of eating from the tree of knowledge of good and evil. Yeah.
So they really didn't experience the beauty of that in 48 hours.
They did not experience a very long time there. That's correct.
Hours, not hours.
What's that?
Hours were hours.
Yeah, well, whatever.
Hours,
Yeah,
years.
days or whatever.
Right.
So,
That
I
it was
I
very-
was thinking maybe they were bored. You know, they were there for a while. and there was
Very,
nothing.
it was very short-lived.
Was they evil? Was they already evil? You said that.
Well, let's see. Let's see.
So there was a Shabbos then also? Just the two of them?
Yes. Oh, but they were already banished from the garden.
How did they know about Shabbos?
Well, the verse in the Torah says that that it's the sixth day, and the sixth day goes into the seventh day, and that's called Shabbos.
So they were given that information that on Shabbos you rest and all that?
Yeah, I don't think they probably were not on their cell phones on Shabbos.
Yeah.
Probably not.
They didn't
Then
get,
I would think
they didn't get a weekly source.
each day would be the same as Shabbos. I mean, they had nothing to do with it.
No, they had a lot to do. You're right that what they did was different than what we do during the week. But let's see over here, because I think he's going to answer. Now, after the sin, however, true and false, emes and sheker, fell to good and bad. It went down a level. Remember, emes and sheker, true and false, is reality versus non-reality. Good and evil, good and bad, is lower than that. So once that we ate from the tree of knowledge of good and evil, so then it warped our sense of emes and sheker, and it fell down now from the high level of reality versus non-reality to a world of good and bad. He's going to explain what the struggle with that is. Now the good is not absolute anymore. It may be right and obligatory, but it has a price. Meaning, it might be the right thing to keep your mouth shut when the boss asks you, do you know where somebody, what happened over here in the business, because you don't want to get somebody in trouble, but it might cost you your job. It might be that you have to put on tefillin every single day, but it's going to cost you $1,500 at least to get a nice pair of tefillin. So it might be that it's right, it might be that it's good, it might be obligatory even, but there's going to be a price that comes along with it. And now the price can be debated. So now we said, well, is it really worth it? Should I really keep my mouth shut under the circumstances? I'm the one that's going to get damaged in the end. So maybe it's good for me if I say something to the boss right now. Do I really need to go to that person who's selling the film? Somebody told me about a guy that's selling it for $300. Maybe I'll get it from him instead. Yeah, but they warned me there's probably bazooka gum wrappers inside over there, and maybe they might even be stolen. Nobody knows. Well, it's debatable right now. What does Hashem want? Now the bad is not absolute either. It may be immoral and prohibited, but it certainly has benefits. You ask anyone who does a sin, you ask any of these guys that are, their faces are on the covers of the LA Times because they just got busted embezzling millions of dollars, or the Bitcoin guy and this one and that one. While he was doing it, he didn't know that it's wrong. He knew that it's wrong. So why did he do it? Because the money, he's got so greedy. And the money looks so good. And to have money in his wallet and in the bank account and be able to go and buy whatever he wants, it became exciting. So it's for sure immoral. And for sure it's prohibited. But there's benefits. And maybe they're worth the consequences. Now you ask Bankman Fried, whatever his name is over there, if it was worth everything that he did, I would assume at this point he'll tell you no, because he got caught. He wasn't expecting to get caught. Nobody's ever expecting to get caught when they do the wrong thing. They expect to just be able to go and just do whatever they want to do. But now you'll ask him, so if he would not have gotten caught, and he would have lived out his whole life, and he would have been this multi-million billionaire because of what he did, he would tell you it was all worth the risk. I was immoral. I took advantage of people. I stole people's money, but no harm, no foul. I'm good. So therefore it was worth it. Man's sin did not lead to the acquisition of new knowledge. This is the important thing. The questionnaire who was asking the Rambam said, how is it possible that they sinned and they got new knowledge, now they know what the difference between good and evil is? Says the Rambam, it's not true. They didn't get new knowledge. It led to an immense distortion of clarity. It was emes and sheker. It was true and false, and we were clear. Reality, not reality. I only want to live in the world of reality. Now it is good and bad. Well, that's up for discussion. Okay, you're telling me that this is good and you're telling me this is bad, but there's a lot of strings attached to the good and there's a lot of strings attached to the bad. So let me now make up my decision of which path I'd like to go in. Absolute true and false descended to their murky and relative equivalence of good and evil. And that's how he's learning it over here, is that there's reality and then there's the murky reality that we live in after the sin of the tree of knowledge of good and evil. That fall was a catastrophic downward shift of the point of freedom. Suddenly free will becomes compromised now as well. The will, which had previously functioned at its pristine level of absolute, fell into the confusing world of relative values. It was clear to Adam what choices to make in the beginning. There was no question in his mind. Of course, I'm going to do what's emes, what is true, because that's reality. I'm staying away from the world of not reality, of falsehood. Now that everything descended inside of him, so what ends up happening? Those pristine levels of absolute truth that I had before, they're now all waffling around over here in the world of relative values, a world where reality and illusion are both credible. Which means I no longer know what is reality and what is illusion. It's like, you have these, I guess Google has these, the goggles that you can wear anywhere that you go. And it's like, actually, somebody was explaining it to me, it's actually like, through the goggles, it's like showing you the people and the things that are around you, but it's not really the people because it's a camera that's watching the people and imposing images into your brain. So are they real or not real? Why do I need goggles to see another human being? So if we live in a world, that's what he's saying over here, reality and illusion are now mixed up. We don't always know what is the reality of the world because the illusion is so strong, it can make us believe this is reality. And the things that are reality, we could be made to believe, oh, that's illusion, that's not really true. And that's the quandary that we live in, and that's how he's going to explain more and more how it is that the incredible, inherent, pure morality that we were born with, which is inside of our hearts and our souls, it gets lost because of this struggle between the reality and the world of illusion. We'll see more next time.
Wow.
You're welcome.